Okay, here is a teepee structure with 5 trees in it, and but it's very sparse here. These are in the aspens, and they're aspens leaned up, and they're coming from basically just about every direction there. So, and particularly this teepee right here, which I might be a little close to, I'm not sure where you see it. This one here has a couple of these. There's only 3 here leaning up, and a couple of these are not rooted. They've been moved here. So I would say this is an area I picked because it has an abundance of water. It's the right elevation, but I didn't realize there were so few pines. And it seems like this, though this might be an area they pass through, this is not an area like I saw in Payson Canyon where they're spending lots of time, because there's very little of this. And you know, this could be argued it's so sparse that this is natural. I don't think so, because of the leaned up trees that are not rooted. But most all the other leaning trees that I'm finding, this is also on a little hilltop. There's a little grove of pines over there. I'm going to walk over those in a minute. But just not a lot here. And it seems like shelter, the heavy trees is by far the biggest, the heavy trees, the pines, the cover, is by far the biggest determinant in where they're spending their time. And not as much being real close to water, and not necessarily the available trees. But the key is that if you want to find sign of these things, look for aspen groves next to pine forests. And that seems to be the home run. Okay, I took a little screen off this camera. I have a feeling those last videos are not going to come out real well. But here is a large grouping of pines that have fallen over, and in my opinion these are not, this is all natural. You know, there's a whole bunch of them here, and they're large trees. I didn't see any tree liens on the way up here, and I feel that this is just about of microburst winds. October 19th, 2016. I'm down in southern Utah near Fish Lake. Thought I'd come out here and just see what if the same things I've been seeing up north in Payson Canyon are holding true down here. And basically what I found, lots of down trees, enormous groves of aspen, and I came to a place particularly with a huge amount of water, lakes, beaver ponds, beautiful streams like the one in front of me, but far less in the way of pine groves than I anticipated. And what I found is actually very little in what I could consider to be Bigfoot sign. In fact, really only one little area that I saw a couple of tree lanes and teepee structures, and they look to be old, maybe as old as 10 years old. So it's possible something came through here at some point, but unlike up in Northern California, it does not appear an area where they're spending a lot of time. Now, do you come out here and search for Bigfoot? Well, after spending the summer doing this, I am, and this is only me speaking, only here in northern Utah that I can talk about, I'm convinced they exist. I have seen all sorts of structure in the trees. I've seen a few things that I thought were scat. I have seen it that in my opinion are definitely real footprints, but I have not seen an animal. Have I heard the tree knocks? Well, possibly, but like right up there, the problem we got here in Utah is you got open range, you got cattle everywhere, and those things are really clumsy and really noisy in the brush. So I can't be 100% on tree knocks. I did hear what I interpreted to be a scream or a yell or whatever, a yodel, but it also could have been someone in the campground with a fire siren turned on. So it can't be definitive. So have I seen actually any evidence? No. Unequivocally no. But here's my take on it. Up in northern Utah where I'm at, when I find aspen forests that are next to pine forests, and usually 7,000 to about 9,000 feet in elevation, I am finding all kinds of tree structures and leaning tree teepees. Now I'm down here in this aspen forest here in southern Utah, and yeah, I see leaning trees and I see a few leaning together and that all along here, but I don't see the organization, and I don't see the enormous number of leans in multiple directions on multiple trees within a line of sight of each other. I don't see the same size trees, 100 or 200 or 300, by just turning around in a circle and seeing them all, that I see up in those areas in Northern California. And I see more like I see here. Very little, if any, in the way of tree leans. Yes, there are some, and there's lots of down timber, but that's the way of the woods. Now, if you're going to look for these things, a couple of things. Number one, orient yourself first. Get on Google Maps. Look up the area you want to look for water. You can in general tell whether they're aspen or pine forests, and search those areas in about that kind of elevation. Second of all, in Utah, much easier than in Oregon or California or Washington, because of we're in a drier state. The heavy timber just tends to be on the north sloping faces, which I feel greatly congregates these things to those areas. I know I've gone to Oregon and other areas, and you can search everywhere for these things. Where here, it's much more limited in the scope of where they're going to locate themselves. And after searching down here, though this place has abundant water, abundant aspens, which is apparently what they feed on, it seems that shelter, by far and away, and by shelter I mean heavy growth trees where they have a year-round canopy where they cannot be visible from a long distance, is by far the most effective thing in determining where these creatures locate themselves. I can almost say without a doubt, you're not going to find a huge amount of sign in any aspen or any oak forests, but you find those pines, you're going to find, at least in Utah, where those aspens have been drug into the pines. Worst case, you may go out, you may find nothing, but you're going to sit yourself in front of a beautiful little stream like this on a beautiful 50-degree day, clear, sunny, and get to see this wonderful planet that God has given us. So that's the worst case. The best case, you might find something that's really interesting. Okay, I'm down here in the Fish Lake National Forest, and this is called Twin Ponds, and this is where I've spent the day. Pretty area, lots of water, lots of little lakes and ponds all over here. You can hear the stream in the background. But I basically decided this is probably not an area where I'm going to find any significant sign of Sasquatch. So I'm out of here.